Alright, time to end the Navi campaign, starting what we got to know at the end of the previous part. The fact that Officer Midori has reached us in the home tree.
Wow, Ryder, look at you. You really look full Navi now.
Whatever that means.
Oh, he did before?
He's found the location of the dormant site.
I know.
You have to move fast. Falco sent a dragon to the site. He's gonna drop the emulator on the Well of Souls. Ryder, the emulator's unstable. You need the true first voice to activate that site before Falco...
Long story short...
emulators are evil. We should ban them all.
Long story short, in case you forgot some key terms, get to the tree before the human do. Easy as that.
So he's going to emulate the Well of Souls, the fiend.
Kinda actually. Despite the fact that Falco, technically speaking, doesn't really have someone equivalent to Ryder, so he shouldn't actually be able to reach to be able to actually locate and find the Well of Souls that they're actually gathering from. He has a machine called the emulator that can mimic the Navi song and can use that to control the Well of Souls and thus potentially sever the connection that the Navi have to Ewa, the spirit of Pandora. Go on.
Also, Jova, I wasn't aware that you were an employee at Nintendo.
Even I, okay, I'm not so crazy on emulation myself, but even I wouldn't go that far.
More like an employee of about 90% of game companies out there. Like, honestly, let's be honest, Sega are more the odd man's out with how okay they are with emulation. Like, a lot of other companies demonize emulation.
Yeah, I mean, the only line Sega could draw is don't try and profit from it.
Also, excuse me.
Camera angle?
No, so the Navi in the background, Jesus.
Well, that tech... Sorry.
Again, interrupting NPCs. But I also found a bit of a detail in the meantime. Maybe the movie did mention in its beginning narration, but I forgot. Or maybe we should have been a clue from that map that we got of Pandora. But Pandora is technically not a planet on itself. It's classified as a planetoid, but it's technically a moon to a bigger planet, actually.
Yeah, I don't recall that being mentioned in the movie. But maybe it was.
Or at the very least, they had a shot because, the planet that it's rotating around is actually very big. It's a gas giant.
He waits for your help. We are close.
Gesundheit. Okay, for this final mission, you're supposed to basically, in order to locate the Well of Souls, essentially locate the Navi commanders, if I recall correctly, which will tell you which human commanders actually to defeat. And since we did this campaign first, there is a human command character that I think Dweebs might surprisingly appreciate because of how he's called.
Well,
but we'll get into time.
Is he called Gerald?
No, his name is actually Crash.
Big B, we in for a fight?
Big B.
Vediamo.
We must attack the commanders. Put their force into
there we go. Dude, my bones are kind of covering your face there, just letting you know.
I have studied your people.
Your bones are sticking out? Gross. You should get that looked at.
He studied the art of war.
We share this battle with our strongest Navi warriors. Go to them. They will mark your kills.
Alright.
Wow, what are they gonna do? Make a tally chart?
I don't know what that is, but sure.
Basically, it's like those things that you have. When you what those lines, you make 4 of them, and then when you draw a line through it, that makes 5.
Ah, okay. Oh, there we go. Yes, Dweebs, we're hunting Batista.
Hey, Sam. So this was 2009,
and again, I don't know much about how he actually fares in the ring, but this Batista is the demolition expert of the RDA, so he excels with explosives.
Well, Batista caused destruction as well. And it's an interesting thing. Around the time this game came out, Batista turned heel. And basically, his new gimmick was he was a narcissistic asshole who wanted the spotlight always on him. Literally, even like every time he came out, he had the entrance people put a spotlight on him as he walked to the ring.
Huh.
He left the company the next year.
Huh.
When his ending was also kind of weird. His character had been suffered a grueling match against John Cena the previous night, to the point where he was injured all over. He was in a wheelchair, and for some reason the new general manager Bret Hart tried to make Randy Orton wrestle the match, and Batista was like, in order to get another chance at the WWE title, Batista was like, Bret, are you mad? I'm in a wheelchair and hurt. And Bret's only response was, oh, yeah. And Bret's only response was, yeah, I know you're hurt, but so is your opponent, Randy Orton. And then Batista was like, no, you can't make me compete. And then Bret was like, okay, you forfeit.
I love
how
Bret
was like, okay, you forfeit the match. And then Batista was angry and went on a rant that said, oh, you only pay to see me. As soon as I leave, you'll be bored and not watch again. So I quit.
I love how you actually researched to get Batista's theme music.
I actually did ask Dweebs and Pedro what it was back when I was recording this, so it was a while ago, so he probably did forgot.
So there you go, Dweebs. That was us fighting Batista.
I guess the only way to really defeat him was just using a pair of knives.
So what did you think of the match?
Yeah, that was... I mean, it was really, really short for a wrestling match, and it didn't even end with a pin or submission or even a DQ or count-out finish. It just stopped.
But
yeah,
he did get
KO'd.
KO'd.
That is true. These Navis actually should learn some wrestling moves.
The ref didn't. There was no referee there. There was no call. He didn't make any calls or anything. He didn't count to 10. He didn't raise the arm. He didn't even stop the match. The ref was non-existent. Where did he go?
Yeah, you're right. You're right, Tio. These Navis should be more Quetzalcoatl.
Well. Okay, Droma. You need to refer specifically because there are different kind of examples that can fit.
The one from Fate Grand Order.
Okay, again, there aren't much experience with Fate, but the only two examples that I could think of were Kotal Khan from Mortal Kombat and the character from the Dragon Maid anime.
Yeah. Which one's Fate Grand Order? Is that the one that takes place after the sequel but before the prequel but after the interquel?
Dweebs, the continuity in the Fate franchise is something you want to stay away from.
Okay, basically, Fate Grand Order takes place after Fate Stay Night, essentially, like, way later down the timeline, essentially. And essentially, think of Fate Grand Order as like the big convergence between all the different timelines of Fate, essentially. So, in a way, it's
Endgame.
It's probably one of the more simplified things of Fate you'll probably be able to get into.
It's mostly because, for obvious reason, they want to have an excuse to include all possible characters, for the player to obtain.
Yep, while also creating some new ones.
I'm just trying to ask someone the order. Alright, in what order should I watch the Fate series? Yes.
Again, please watch Geeklux videos about it. Pretty much your best explanation. There we go.
Basically, in Fate Grand Order, Quetzalcoatl is a luchadora, so wrestling.
Huh.
Believe it or not, Mexicans actually love that.
Oh yeah, that I know. That I know. There are quite a few promotions in Mexico, and they have their own style, luchadors.
Alright, as you have noticed, I'm basically skipping most of the tracking that I have to do because, again, most of it is literally just, roaming around from point A to point D at this point, and the locale is pretty much the same.
I've been wondering, how often is Pandorapedia, how often do they get their articles edit defaced? Like, I don't know, like they have an article about the king, but someone defaces it, so it's like, the king of the Na'vi is your mom, or something.
They simply restore it. Okay, Dweebs, I guess you don't have much experience with wiki writing, article writing, or policy.
I only ever did a few edits.
Okay,
it's
honestly...
it's not that much. That's a problem. Essentially, each page as a history for any time it was edited. So if someone vandalizes it, a moderator or even an article in general can simply just restore the page at that point where it was before the vandalization. If it happens multiple times, a moderator or an administrator can actually lock it temporarily until the issue is resolved, as in, you know, the vandalizer is actually banned or stuff like that.
It's pretty much to a point where, you know, wiki vandalizations go by so quickly that chances are you'll likely miss them, if any. I think
It
that
depends also on the community, Job. I can tell you, back...
Someone preserved through screenshots.
Back at the very end of the 2000s, beginning of 2010, back when I was mostly just writing the articles, I mentioned a couple of times in the past, but I haven't done it in a while, so might as well refresh. I did used to write for the Italian version of Encyclopedia, which is a rather mild famous satirical wiki. I don't do it anymore because of time and because these days my humor has shifted from that. But back when I used to write, that particular wiki was particularly vandalized because the community there has always been relatively famous in my country, particularly having a bit of a spike in 2011, you know. So one could expect we were with a lot of vandals, but, you know, we just knew how to deal with them.
Arrows cannot take down the Metal Demon.
You mean the Metal Gear demons?
Kinda. Remember, it's one of those sweet mecha suite, similar to the one that Quarry chooses at the end.
The quartermaster, huh? I guess he saved the best gear for himself.
I can also tell this, but again, I will not elaborate because there's an entire part dedicated. Actually, after reading a couple of entries from the Pandorapedia, as in the actual entries that are in this game about some elements, there are a lot of interesting details that kinda justify a bit some of the action, but I do believe the movie, at the very least, the movie could have one throwaway line or two to actually bother telling, because it kind of recontextualizes a bit a couple of the most weird elements we've seen of humans, like why the RDA uses some particular equipment, what actually is the unobtainium, and why is it so goddamn important, you know? And similar stuff. But again, I won't spoil too much because we have an entire part dedicated to that.
Oh, goody.
Like, the only thing that I couldn't find a decent kind of, you know, entry where the spirit, kind of, the floating spirit kind of thing. Basically, they're a vegetable, actually, not an animal, but, and they're basically a representation, not a small type of life form that the entity known as Awa, the one that the Navi communicate with, you know, serves to also communicate and to represent. This is why it was so important in the movie, when the fact that they show up, and apparently they had so much, you know, respect for the protagonist, despite, you know, the fact that he wasn't a full-on real Navi. And yes, there's also an entry that I dedicated also to the Avatar program with all of the squeaky moral implications about it. There we go. I think this one is the last commander before we move on. There we go.
What an epic showdown. That the Navi are absolutely winning in, it seems.
Yeah, this time around. Like I said, judging from what all of the endings that you got, there's only one that's fairly convincing to be the closest to a canonical one. But I had to warn that despite the way they end, they kind of have a sort of a similar note in a sense that they slightly cop out in saying, this is the status quo, but it will probably change. And in a sense that they have the perfect excuse, so at the beginning of the movie, things are different from though they are at the end of this. So, mind you, some things, even for the status quo, particularly for the human campaign, do change in order to set themselves up for the movie, as you'll be able to see properly. But the proper endings themselves, again, they're not as straightforward as they might appear at first glance. All right. All right, it is time actually to get to the Well of Souls.
Complete my journey? What exactly am I supposed to
Unless you're going to the wall of fears.
Die a heroic sacrifice, of course.
Go to the well and choose your fear. If it is... Yeah, okay. That's a bit of a weird rule in the original atmosphere. If you picked your own fear, you don't win the game, and yet if you don't pick your own fear, you win. But that kind of makes it a bit too easy to win once you get all the keys. Whereas in the DVD version, they switched it so that if you don't pick your fear, you have to go and try again. But if you do, you win.
Mm-hmm.
I never got the original.
All right, if I remember correctly, this is like the last leg. Yes, so there you go, Tantalus. And it's basically, since it's basically the last leg of the level, it's essentially a giant gauntlet where you're basically, you know, steamrolling through the remaining opposition until you reach the key point. And there you actually have to sustain, if I recall correctly, a small endurance round, and after that you're taken to the location of the Well of Souls.
So there's
There we go.
bad news. The good, we finally found this dormant Well of Souls. Someplace called Tantus, high in the floating mountains. The bad news? Falco found it too. He'll be mobilizing troops right away. I guess the race is...
Again, I have no idea how he actually got able to, but...
Well of Souls. If I go down swinging.
Like, they could have easily have just said that, oh, he happened to have a tape recorder on him because he had it with him for research purposes while he was in the Navi body.
I don't know what to tell you. Which reminds me, Pandorapedia, as I also will showcase, also has an entry with Able Ryder's backstory, the entire reason why he got to Pandora in the first place. It's like...
How nice.
They couldn't put it there. Did they not even have money for the different voice actors depending on the body type? I don't know. It's weird. But yeah, again, it does, when you actually get to play the human campaign, it doesn't make a lick of sense the fact that in this scenario, Falco is able to get to the Well of Souls unless he was actually spying the Navi, which it cannot be possible because, you know, we have they have made it sure that, you know, they do not get information that they had to the humans, you know, because you know, unless it's Ryder himself, nobody gets to know the fact of the songs, which in itself serves to triangulate the position of the Well of Souls. So the fact that the Falco just arrives out of fucking nowhere towards the end serves only basically to say that, oh, it's a convenient cue, so we have a justification why there are humans in this location. It couldn't have been a case of, oh, it just they could even say something like, oh, it just followed the Navi to the destination and actually, you know, managed to scan the area preemptively or something. No, not even that. They just say that he managed to find a way to make the Evolutor work. Whatever. But yeah, your best chance for this, as I will also showcase a bit in the human campaign, is to just wing it. Don't stop for the fighting, just run as fast as you can. One of your powers is also tied to camouflaging, and you can use that if you want. The trick is that it's best if you don't do anything else aside from walking and running while you do that, because otherwise the camouflage will just drop, and you'll be forced to actually get confronted with the enemies where you are supposed to sneak in.
Mm-hmm.
Alright, if I recall correctly, it's now. There you go.
All hope lies with you, Dreamwalker. We stand and we say no. They will not take from Ewa. You will not let them.
Hey. Again, essentially, like I said, now we're gonna have a small endurance round. I think it's around either 3 minutes and a half or 5 minutes. Where you need to repel the human force. It's not an escort mission, thankfully. You just need to survive and kill as many humans as possible.
And let them politely get off the helicopter first.
There you go, 3 minutes and a half. Again, it's very doable, not really a problem. Especially because, I think I did mention in one of the early parts, but the game doesn't have difficulty setting. It's actually locked onto a specific one, which can get a bit bullshit in some occasions where humans start spamming the shit out of their guns. But otherwise, it's still relatively doable if you know how to play your cards. Again, collecting cells, from the plants in order to boost your regeneration in case you get KO is the key for success. Because at that point you can actually be allowed to make mistakes, potentially. But yeah, otherwise just kill as much as you can. If you really want, ideally you could actually stay in like a corner and just wait until the timer runs out. You can potentially do that, but if I recall correctly, you're still supposed to kill at least a number of humans, like in this case. I don't remember if it's an optional objective or actually the mandatory one. Yeah, it's been a while. Hey, one of the red fucker actually gets to help you as well. The Nocterix, sorry.
Alucards in this game?
Sure.
I mean, red is the same as crimson after all.
Oh, the closest thing to red, but Alucard. Oh, right, the Helsing's Alucard, sorry.
Yes,
that I keep getting confused with the Castlevania one.
No. I mean the fun Alucard.
In his Twitter account, he's called the Red Fucker, that is true. I did forgot about that.
The Red Fuck.
Yes.
And he's not sorry about what he did with the Pope either.
Nor what he did with the statue of Jesus in Rio de Janeiro. But yeah, again, at this point you might as well just wait and sit and wait. The only reason why I did not speed up is just to showcase it. When I get to this part in human campaign, because yes, it's basically gonna be the same for that, I will just, speed up at that point. Ow. Props to the composer as well. They're trying their best to create this atmosphere of war and suppression. Again, the score of this game is not really that memorable at the end of the day, but it does the job it's supposed to do. Again, that's basically the summarization of this game to me at the end of the day. It's something that I wasn't expecting to have this much content in it, especially for a licensed game around this time. But at the same time, it's not something that I would lose my mind to play at any cost, which I guess reflects slightly the source material, I guess.
Well, okay. I mean, I'll give this game credit. I do feel like it does more of its world than what its source material set out to do. Not to say that its source material was terrible or anything. It's just that, well, it was definitely focused more on the spectacle rather than actually explaining things.
And also trying to make you feel sad. There we go. Falco Craigie, we're done.
Objective completed. Next.
We will not forget this day. Songs will speak of Able Ryder.
Cool.
You must find a way.
Able Ryder.
Yeah, that's
echo through the ages.
Understand the dangers to your fight.
Alright, there you go. Using the red fucker, we will actually get to the Duel of Souls.
Neat.
If I recall correctly. Either that... Actually, no, I forgot. Well, I'm about to check out.
I do get what you mean that, this is definitely one of the better game adaptations, but there are some points where the game can start to feel like it's kind
there
of...
you go.
Oh.
Yeah, it's by using the big red fucker. The guy that was tamed off screen by the protagonist of a movie. And in this case, it's just okay.
So I guess it turns out that the supposed chosen one in the first Avatar film wasn't as special as we made him out to be, because here's this other guy who just happens to do it.
Again, potentially a lot of the Na'vi prophecies and everything were just a bit full of shit, potentially.
So it turns out the trick to taming one of the red ones is be a human transported into a Na'vi's body.
Again, much like with the movie, there is a bit of an undertone of the Na'vi can't do jack shit, but the human gets to arrive, and gets to save everyone because he's just that damn special.
Okay, I wouldn't mind this if they maybe just went with the idea that, humans in Avatar bodies tend to look at things differently. And a different, technique was needed to tame the red one. Like that, I would get.
It still gives the idea that, the actual real native of the place can't do jack shit and needs someone else to be saved by, But, hold on.
I definitely do get what you mean about the overall narrative. I'm not sure about the whole taming of the red dragon thing being a sign of that, though.
Look at that. The actual Well of Souls is yet another giant tree.
Huh.
They love their trees.
Wouldn't a Well of Souls make more sense as being a huge cavern that plunges down deep? Because,
But the question is, where is Falco?
He has been absorbed by the tree.
The thing about is that in 2 out of the 3 ending outcomes, you don't get a final boss. You just arrive at the tree of the Well of Souls, and you're just done. Just press triangle, and you get the ending.
Wait, what? Really?
I know, right?
What's the Na'vi's favorite?
There's actually the dragon with Falco.
What's the Na'vi's favorite movie exactly? The Tree of Life.
You're gonna kill us all.
Oh god.
Oh.
And 9. No,
they're in Wonder Joven.
Remember the Awa spirits, MacGuffins.
And everyone blew up. What?
It's more like, there you go, the tree of the Well of Souls actually starts to resonate with the song done by actual Ryder. Which essentially creates a process that triggers the unobtainium inside the rock, which creates a sort of an electromagnetic generator. I know that the cutscene did not convey it that well, but that's basically what happened. So, the question is, what now?
Where the hell have you been? First voice does not need a second.
This is only the beginning, Tangela. More humans are coming.
Of
Maybe
course.
we could try and make peace with them.
There is hope. Now we prepare a storm.
Wow, 2 cliches at the price of 1. Both this is just the beginning and a storm is coming.
Wait, hold on. So which is it? Oh, we have hope, but a storm is coming. Like, do you have hope or not?
So yeah, that's the end of a Na'vi campaign. Again, what it technically, I guess, could have been possible a bit, it just doesn't make sense because, again, you're missing a good chunk of the development of what happens in the human side, which doesn't match what happens at the beginning of the movie, So for all intents and purposes, I said to report that the Na'vi campaign is the most non-canonical out of what happens, so sorry to say that. So, what do you think of the game so far, since the rest are just credits? So you don't have to mention about the entire game, just what do you think of the story in terms of the choice we had made, as in, the actual, the campaign with the side of a Na'vi. Please.
What? Oh.
Well, that was definitely a story. I guess it's like the movie. A lot of times it's just really dull, and yet other times it's just really weird. Like, you just, and especially that ending, it's like, it barely even qualifies as an ending. You just go to a tree, make it sing for a bit, and then that's it.
The bad guy gets destroyed in a cutscene. Yeah.
We don't even get a
the
final line from Falco.
Yeah, that's a bit odd. So,
But
yeah,
wait,
so
what
far,
about that amazing story arc that Beidamo goes through?
story arc.
Yeah, the fact that he antagonizes you for most of the game, but he gets to witness one cases where a rider manages to resonate one of the trees without shards, and he gets impressed so much, but now he believes that he is the voice.
That's not a story arc. That's at best just a change of mind. Yeah, I'm just not feeling this game, well, this franchise's story in general. Sorry.
Okay, Pedro.
I mean, it's about on the same level as the movie. It's derivative and not that interesting, to be honest with you. Again, I guess it's a great adaptation in this. Sorry, a great video game adaptation tie-in in the sense that it captures the spirit of the movie, all right. So, success.
What about you, Jova?
Oh, I must say that I've definitely come to the calculated conclusion that this game is absolutely, brilliantly fine. It's fine. Nothing remarkable, nothing terrible. It goes through the motions, gain each tribe's trust. Oh, you have this one rival guy who doesn't trust you no matter what, but then becomes your best friend by the end. And, yeah. That's pretty much it. I mean, again, I'll admit, a lot of the story did have me going, this feels like pretty much what happened with the original game when you get down to it. Sorry, the original movie when you get down to it, just with a different character, which just leaves me wondering, really? So this stuff essentially happened twice among the Na'vi and they didn't learn from the first one? That being said, there's nothing terrible about it. It seems like it's a fun enough game to play, though it will have moments where it drags.
Also, yes, Roger Pigmeat was in this.
Why am I not surprised?
Probably still one of the soldiers.
But yeah, it's fine. Nothing I go out of my way to play, though, I'm afraid.
Alright, as for me, this particular portion of the story, serviceable, but could have been much better, gotta be honest.
Yeah.
We only explore superficially what Ryder is thinking about switching sides. Most of it, because again, there's that clear shift in dialogue that is just so contrasting. At the same time, Ryder is thrust in a situation where he has to understand the culture of an Na'vi and this new role that he's been assigned to, being this voice that has to gather the shards of unobtainium and resonate the song for them. But the dialogue that he gets to have with the Na'vi is inconsistent and unnecessarily casual for the sake of making a joke, in a sense that the Na'vi are speaking the best as they can in an English that Ryder can understand, and he's just responding like they're a bunch of buddies wanting to grab a beer. He's
what
like,
are you
"Hey,
talking about, Tio? Of course he's perfectly fine gunning down his own fellow men just
That's
like that."
That's another thing entirely. Again, it's kind of like in the movie, and even of the day, this is kind of a war zone, and Ryder was thrusted in a situation very, very fast. It doesn't help that, again, his backstory, as I mentioned, the reason why he gets to get on Pandora is actually explained in the Pandorapedia entry of him. So, and once we learn of that, we also might learn why he's not as inclined to be as loyal to humanity and the RDA as it might appear. But that's a story for another time. As, again, it's not actually that bad, but it could have technically been better. And Veidamo's story arc is just as cliche as you can get. Again, I guess what Pedro said, pretty much in tune with what the movie does in terms of, type of character stereotypes. As in, you get this rival character who is cartoonishly, dick towards you, is an obstacle throughout almost the entire game, but through just one witnessing, he does a complete 180 and now is your best buddy. And Ryder doesn't even acknowledge this that much. He just says, oh, well, if win is over, we're gonna have a couple beers, because that's funny, you know. It's just, it could have been so much better. Again, it's better than the average licensed game, particularly the ones around this era. But I gotta be honest, I've seen a better plot, like say, done around the same time in X-Men Origins Wolverine. So that already says a lot, as in the video game. But yeah, enjoy the rest of the credits and tune in for the next part, where we actually start instead the human campaign and see what happens if Ryder decides to remain loyal to his own species. See ya!
See ya.